Brock's story is told in reference to stories in 21's comic.
What's your relationship with...
When I first saw this, my initial response was, what the f was that?
FlynnsArcade.
Hi, this is FlynnsArcade, and this is my deep dive into the Venture Bros episode Blood of the Father, Heart of Steel, written by Jackson Publick and Doc Hammer with reference to this art book. Let's go. Brock has quit as the Venture's bodyguard, and we catch up on the events of his new life. Back at the Venture compounds, the Ventures are struggling to cope in his absence.
Brock is my bodyguard, not you!
And now that Dr. Venture's cloning technology is common knowledge, a sinister team of extremists has rocked up at the Venture compounds.
Wait! You guys are Nazis!
Nine, we're not.
Yes, you are, and that's like the worst fake German accent I've ever heard.
In the hope that he can resurrect their leader from the DNA which is currently housed in a dog. Meanwhile, Henchman 21 is also looking for Dr. Venture's assistant.
Just bring 24 back to me.
Okay,
please.
okay. Let's see the half mil.
This relic belonged to my father's father. It has been passed down to the firstborn male in my family's line.
What? It's a comic.
In resurrecting his dead best friend 24, which leads to the destruction of a very valuable pop culture artifact. Style. This episode is possibly the most experimental episode of the Venture Bros. There are two plot lines happening, with Jackson writing about Brock's story and Doc writing about the events back in the Venture compound. Unusually, there are two cold opens. The first, which shows the immediate aftermath of the explosion of the Monarchmobile which caused the demise of 24.
Agent Simpson! Agent Simpson, can you hear me? Medic! I need a medic over here!
And the second cold open, which is a dramatic scene depicting how the Ventures managed to purge the extremists from the compound.
Shut your eyes, Dean! Don't look at it no matter what happens!
Using a combination of Dr. Orpheus's cleansing ritual and Sergeant Hatred laying siege to the Venture compound. There is no context provided, which adds to the general sense of confusion which will continue throughout the episode. The key to the whole episode is Henchman 21's comic, a copy of an almost mint condition of Marvel issue number 1. The Venture's story is not told in a linear sequence, and we get the sense of the passage of time from the gradual destruction of the comic and from the length of Hank's hair which grows throughout the episode. Brock's story is told in reference to stories in 21's comic, The Human Torch, The Angel, The Submariner, Jungle Terror, Burning Rubber, The Masked Raider, and Adventures of Khazar the Great.
What's your relationship with...
The boys miss Brock and are coming to terms with his absence and with Sergeant Hatred's new role as the Venture's bodyguard, who Hank treats very much like an unlikable new stepdad. However, the episode ends with Hank and Brock's brief but very emotional reunion.
Why did you leave me?
Hank, I'll never leave you. But right now, these guys need me a little more.
And it's really beautiful, that scene. It really stands out. This was the 7th episode Doc and Jackson wrote for this season, and they had to put a lot of plot pieces into place, such as Brock moving on from the family and Sergeant Hatred taking on the role of the bodyguard. Doc Hammer says that he decided not to do the episode in sequence because he says that he thought it would be fun to do something unconventional in a cartoon. I love with the form. It's also worth remembering that Venture Bros episodes are made with the intention that viewers feel able to rewatch them several times. I remember definitely feeling very confused the first time I saw this episode and rewatching it the following day, and upon my second viewing it started to make a lot more sense. If you're enjoying this video, please can you drop me a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and now on with the video. Cool. Cultural references. Marvel #1 and CGC rating. The gradual destruction of 21's comic is a major plot device in this episode, and this is told using the CGC rating, which is a metric used to assess the condition of vintage comic books. In 2022, a similar copy really was sold at auction to a person called Stephen Fischler for $2.4 million. Its inclusion in this episode, and the lack of regard shown by the characters towards it, really drives home the theme of failure which runs throughout the show. Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indiana Jones shows up a lot in the Venture Bros, but this is one of the most overt references to the 1981 movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. The scene where the clone tanks are destroyed and one of the characters' faces is melted off is an overt reference to the famous scene when the Ark of the Covenant is opened. Brokeback Mountain.
Rock! I knew you couldn't quit us!
Shh, they can't know that I'm here.
Brokeback Mountain is a 2005 neo-western romantic drama which is based on a novel by Anne Proulx. Dean's line when he tells Brock, "I knew you couldn't quit us," is a reference to a famous line from the film, as is the plot about Hank wearing Brock's jacket. It's a reference to the movie's protagonist caressing his deceased partner's denim jacket. This is a very sad film, and invoking it really drives home how much Dean and Hank miss Brock when he moves away. $6 Million Man and Sasquatch.
You got bionicle legs, man. It's no fun trying to keep up. Oh.
These two make an appearance when Brock goes to stay with them when he's on the run. I thought it was worth mentioning that there's a 1976 episode of the $6 Million Man, which features the main character interacting with Bigfoot.
Can you understand me? Are you a man?
I haven't seen this episode, but I assume that the two weren't in a relationship in the original TV show. It's also worth mentioning the painting Brock did of them.
I'm afraid art therapy isn't really my bag, but it's the least I can do to thank you for all your help.
It's beautiful. We'll cherish it always.
Originally, Jackson wanted to show a really intense scene of Brock staying up all night and passionately working on the painting in a really inspired way, but then when you get to see it, it really is a piece of shit. He goes on to say that he'd like to see that he likes to think that there's a bunch of shitty paintings all over the cabin, but unfortunately this scene never made it into the episode. RuPaul.
You might want to look at your face.
Oh, come on! Should I ask RuPaul to paint my camo face?
At this point, when the episode was broadcast, RuPaul was a famous drag queen and musician. However, shortly after this episode was aired, RuPaul's Drag Race was first aired on TV. It was a talent show for drag queens, and it means a lot to me personally because I watched it constantly during lockdown. I have a lot of gratitude as a result to RuPaul and everyone else involved in the show because it got me through a really difficult time. Jokes. I know that Doc and Jackson like to write scenes that they wanted to see in the show and then figure out a way to manoeuvre the plot around to ensure that these happened. So I'm guessing that this was the creative process behind the scenes with Dean's dog. Dean names his dog after his favourite fictional character, Giant Boy Detective. But in this instance, the very one where he declares his love for his dog, he decided to use the name of the historical figure which the dog is named after. I'm going to include the clip now, but I'm going to censor the name because in the interest of good taste.
I love Hip, and Hip loves me! He's not all bad! Hip just needs someone to believe in him! Can't you just give Hip a chance?
The scene makes perfect sense in context, but when you take a step back and listen to what's actually coming out of Dean's mouth, it's possibly the edgiest joke I've seen in the whole run of the show. I also like the scene when Brock infiltrated Molotov's Blackheart's agency.
What's the offer?
150.
Tone 200 and give it to Zara. Next.
Gustafson Paul.
Firstly, it was pretty funny that Mole hadn't guessed that Hunter was the mole. Secondly, the absurdity of Brock meeting a Sphinx agent who was also lurking in the air conditioning vent.
What the? Hey, what? Hey, who are you? You with the black arts? None of your business. Get out of here. You get out of here. I was here first.
And finally, when the palm tree slowly broke his fall to the ground. There is also some cringe and gross out comedy pertaining to the destruction of 21's comic. It was shocking to see the clueless Dr. Venture taking it out of its protective packaging.
If you're so excited about worthless garbage, you want this too?
Yeah, totally. What is this crap? Where's Batman?
And it went on to be damaged in a series of disgusting and unusual ways, including being used to pick up dog shit.
The doggy made a poo-poo!
Great! Some fucking master race! Dean, don't get attached to that rotten dog. He's not staying.
Being rolled up to discipline Dean's evil dog.
Dean, give me your funny pages.
Being shot by Hank. And finally being used as toilet paper by Sergeant Hatred.
Everybody out. I gotta wait. Hank, hand me that magazine. We're out of TP.
Character development. This is an important episode for Hank and Dean because whilst the clone slugs were destroyed in the previous episode, this one featured the destruction of the clone tanks. This version of Hank and Dean really are the final ones, and they can die just the same as anyone else. In the art book it says that it's like they have finally become real boys. Rating. 8 out of 10. I keep changing my mind about this episode. When I first saw this back in the day, my initial response was, what the f was that? And today I read the art book and read that Jackson saw it recently, and his response upon seeing it was, what the f. The experimental format of the episode was a bold move. I rewatched it a few weeks ago, straight after watching the finale of season 3, and I absolutely loved it. But this is because I was very much in the Ventureverse, so I was more than happy to go along with whatever was thrown at me. But having taken a bit of a break, my reaction to watching it today was still a bit of like, kind of what the fuck. I'm not surprised I was taken aback by it when I saw it back in the day, because it had been like a year between my watching the season 3 finale and watching this episode. So it was quite a shock. Even to an obsessive fan like me who made sure I'd rewatch the episode the following day. But I can only imagine what a new fan or a casual fan might have made of it. I also managed to misremember this somehow, because I thought that the non-linear plot was a result of Sphinx memory wiping the characters. But this wasn't the case. Memory wiping wasn't a thing at this point in the story, so it was just me doing this weird headcanon thing, and it's just not true. I don't know why they did this non-linear plot. I think it was just a creative decision. But that said, one of my favourite aspects of the Venture Bros is the show's clear sense of time. Characters' ages and birthdays are clearly stated, so if anyone cares sufficiently, they can go back and work out when events have happened. And this episode really manages to reflect the passage of time in a creative way. I really liked the use of 21's Marvel comic as a way to illustrate it, and the usage of the CGC rating graphic was pretty cool, especially because they also included the monetary value. So for people like me who didn't know what a CGC rating was, that was really helpful. So all in all, I'm glad that this episode exists. It definitely adds a real richness to the show. But I'm also glad that Doc and Jackson didn't make a habit of making these types of episodes. So let me know what you think. Did you enjoy this episode, or did you also have the reaction of like, what the f? Did you realise that Brock's adventures were a direct reference to the front cover of the old Marvel issue #1? Do you think it was a bold move for the writers to remove Brock as his role as the Venture's bodyguard? Because it certainly was a shocker to see him go. If you don't know what to write, please drop me a Go Team Venture, or an Ignore Me, or a Spanakota, or a Sphinx, or even a Hench for Life, because comments really help the channel grow. If you're new to this channel, please check out my playlist. I've made a lot of Venture Bros videos which you might enjoy. Welcome back to all my subscribers, you guys are awesome, and hello to any newcomers. Thank you very much to my channel members. I'm going to give you a shout out in this video's end screen, so stick around for that. Add me on Blue Sky and add me on Instagram, the link is in my bio. If you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Join me next time where we will talk about the Venture Bros episode Handsome Ransom, when Hank gets a new job as Captain Sunshine's sidekick Wonderboy. I upload videos every weekend, so unless anything comes up in the meantime, I'll see you next time.